Okay, so I'll start the ball rolling. Kings of Con, obviously, it's a bit meta, and it is based on your crazy experiences at Supernatural cons, and I saw that the tagline is that the nuttiest people are the actors. So can you talk about what we're going to see, why it's that tagline, what's going on there?
I think the tagline specifically is to clarify that the show is inspired by what Rob and I have experienced behind the scenes of conventions. It's a fictional show, it's a single camera comedy, but it's certainly inspired by a lot of the antics we've experienced either away from the hotel or backstage or whatever, as opposed to it being a spin on fandom per se. Obviously fandom is a part of it because fandom is a convention and they're part of it. They're a core part of what makes a convention a convention. The setting. But it's really about, it's us doing
this crazy relationship,
walking into walls.
It's a rom-com then.
What's that?
A rom-com.
It is a rom-com.
It's a rob-com.
It's a rob-com.
So yeah, that's why we made the joke that the tagline we use is that these two men are super famous 10 weekends a year. The idea being that it's also the disparity between our real life and the faux fame one experiences at a convention, from our perspective of it. And that's what sort of drove us to want to tell the story and relive or capture some of the weird things that happened to us.
Yeah, it's kind of inspired by real life stories, shenanigans that happen backstage, and then we just kind of blow it up into this sort of comic world. And we even play Rob and Rich, but it's a comic.
It's like the Larry David Louis C.K. model in that they're called themselves, but they are comedically inflated versions of themselves, and the rest of the characters in the show are not called themselves. So they're characters, and so it's built to be fictionalized. And Rob's background is in writing and making his own films, and mine is as well. And so when we kept having these events happen that would make us really laugh, we thought, rather than just retell these as old men, let's make a show out of them. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that's what we've done.
From that idea, though, what was the step then to sit down and actually write it? Was like, oh, this is actually hard now, or was it just easy?
No, it was not hard.
Incredibly easy. We really get each other well, and we've been writing down notes for a while. We just started going, we should do something with these funny stories, these things, And so when we sat down to sort of write it, it was all kind of there. We outlined it, and then for most of the scripts, we'd write something, then trade it off to the next person who kind of added on and put it and then add on.
Yeah, we'd write and swap, and even for like the idea of for shooting what became the teaser, the pilot. When we decided to actually let's shoot something, it was literally as quick as, okay, Rob hammered out one quick scene on the airplane. I bought a camera the day before we flew out, and we figured it out in the green. We figured out how to use a camera in the green room. But this is what we do. It wasn't a foreign idea to tell a story on film, because I write all the time, Rob writes all the time, so there was no how do we go about this? It was just like, let's just do this. The only new factor was combining our senses of humor in a more organized fashion. We obviously play together well, but in terms of putting that on paper and getting it honed down to what we want it to be. But again, that was a seamless process. It was just doing it for the first time. That was the only new part.
There's obviously a lot of other people you've cast in it who are involved in the cons or not, whatever. Did you write them and then ask them, or were they all just going, write me in?
Well, because of the way that we did it, at first, like Rich said, he bought a camera, we flew to a con, and we were like, let's see how this. I had written a scene in the green room, so we kind of threw Matt in something. We threw Osric Chow, Matt Cohen, I'm saying, and Osric Chow in a couple scenes. So he was Matt, Osric was Osric, and then we sent him around to write the show. So we had those characters that were kind of already going to be. I think if we would have gone back, we would have renamed them something else.
Matt is definitely not playing Matt, though. Right. His character's something like himself.
So the characters in the show are kind of inspired by real life people.
But it wasn't about people clamoring to be in the show. It was, when Rob and I sat down and decided what's the best sort of mix of fabric we can use to tell the show that are fictionalized. Sometimes they're based on the person, sometimes they're not. Like Matt's case is a perfect example. There's no correlation between Matt Cohen and the guy he plays. So it was more about making the green room or the script itself interesting and populated by interesting and varied characters. And then we looked within our friend group, which includes the Supernatural universe and outside that universe, to see what actors we know that slot in that spot really, really well. We pulled a lot from the Supernatural universe, A, because we have a lot of talented friends in the universe, but also there's a shorthand. They know the world, they get it, they know the gag, so there's not a lot of explaining that has to go on about this is what this should feel like, this is what this is. They know firsthand what it should feel like, what it is.
That's right.
And that certainly made it easy. And we've also worked with a lot of very distinct personalities in the world, and to be able to sort of channel those people who know those personalities, and or at least understand what we mean when we're describing them, was also really, really great.
So you have been to, obviously, a lot of Supernatural conventions and have kind of made your own place in that convention world, and then this comes out of that. I'm seeing it as kind of a cyclical thing, but what's your experience been with creating your own kind of feel for that con out of being, asked to be there and do stuff, and like the Karaoke Kings and the different emceeing of ceremonies? Like, what's your experience been with that?
I always draw the parallel to any job, because conventions are super fun, but at the end of the day, we were hired as individuals to come be entertaining at some level. And I just don't know how to half-ass something, so that if I go into a situation and I'm being asked to do something and I feel like it could be improved upon, my goal is to improve it. And the convention circuit, which was a tried and true format, just needed some updating, some tweaking, in my opinion, because if we're not having fun backstage, it's hard to translate that into fun on stage. So one by one, we all kind of, and it may have been me who started the conversation, but it took everybody agreeing to go forward with it, and we reinvented what it is so that we're having fun, and then if we're having fun, it becomes fun. And then Kings of Con was born out of the same thing. It's, Robbie has said in an earlier interview, and I think it's true, we had the idea of all the things we already said. We have these funny ideas, we had these funny experiences, we're filmmakers, but then, on top of that, if we're going to be away from our families for 18 weekends a year, and sitting backstage in green rooms for 2 hours at a time, let's not, just waste time. Let's make hay while the sun shines. We're storytellers. Let's tell a story. Let's do this thing about this world, because this is the world we know. And every time we go to our friends outside the universe, the Rick Gomez's and the Josh Myers and all your friends, and we try to explain what the world is, people just stare slack-jawed, because they don't. If you've never been to a convention, it doesn't make any sense. It's like trying to describe Prague to somebody. You don't know the architecture, you don't know the lay of the city. I get there's a building and a river, but the rest of it doesn't make any sense to me. And that's what conventions are to people on the outside. And I know that because that's what they were like to me before I got into it. So that to me made it a fun universe to explore cinematically and from a storytelling standpoint, and for Rob as well. Because we are making a show that will resonate with fans who go to conventions. But we are not making a show for fans of conventions. We're making a show for people.
We didn't want to be like
right.
an inside joke.
Should be the universe itself should be
standalone.
In the same way that Star Wars isn't just for people who've been to space. It's got a broad audience, and so we feel like this is our backdrop, and our world is one that is familiar to a lot of people. But even for those for whom it is unfamiliar, it'll still be funny and engaging and new and interesting.
Well, that's the thing about our show too. It's at the end of the day, it is a situational comedy about these two friends. That's what it is, and the backdrop just happens to be these conventions.
And as the backdrop is fandom, you've then had your series funded by your fandom.
Right.
Can you describe that journey and also what you learned, or unexpectedly perhaps, from your
Sure,
fans?
yeah. I mean, that was, something we hadn't planned on doing, and then we were kind of series of circumstances kind of thrust into, and it wound up being an amazing. I mean, him and I never imagined that we would be doing that, like crowdfunding. The whole thing kind of made us feel kind of awkward at first, but our fans, the Supernatural family is never ceases to amaze me how supportive they are, and they came out and supported in such a way that it gave attention to what we were doing. So more than just having the fundage, it was about having other people, because we got press off of it because we did so well because of these fans. And so it turned heads, and people were like, what is that? Which ultimately led to it being picked up by Lionsgate and Comic-Con HQ, which is why we're talking to you here. So it was amazing, beyond expectations, that whole experience.
Somebody asked us earlier if it was a negative, then I think they were looking to see if it was a negative in the process,
like
in terms of
you
have to do all the perks, and I'm like, that's like writing thank you notes for all the gifts you got. It's hardly a negative, like it's really a positive.
We needed help.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity we were provided by the fans of the show, who take a great leap of faith in putting their energy, support, and sometimes money behind an idea that they are just trusting we know how to execute, and that isn't lost on us. We understand that it's one thing to be a fan who supports you by watching your work. It's another to be a fan who supports you by paying for it.
Early on in the process, because we were still sort of, I think of like Bambi, the deer legs, like not quite walking yet. It like gave us the confidence to go like, wow, okay, if these people are investing in this is happening.
Yeah.
We are doing this. You know what I mean? So it gave us the sort of motivation to go, get laser focused and get this happening. So it was inspiring.
It seems like both with the things you were doing at conventions and now with this, you've kind of broken down barriers between celebrity and fandom more than some conventions manage it. Can you talk a little bit about, have you had a different experience, do you think, than some other celebrities, and what do you think of all that?
I don't know what other.
Yeah, we can only kind of speak for our own experience, and certainly it feels unique. The bond between the Supernatural fans per se and the actors.
I think there's a lot of that is born out of the actors involved.
It feels like that.
I know we say this a lot, and I'm sure it sounds like a cliche, because it sounds like a cliche coming out of my mouth, but the actors that are regulars on the Supernatural convention circuit are incredibly nice, normal people.
They seem like it.
And they truly are. That's not, I have to spend a lot of time with these people. You didn't team me up for that. You didn't ask me if they're nice, normal people, and I'm going, yes, they are. I'm bringing this up out of the blue because it's true. And I think that feeds the idea that you're talking about. For myself, for Rob, for Matt Cohen, for Jared Jensen, Misha, for everybody up there, we don't look at it as a dividing line between we're performers and your audience. I've always said it, and I believe it's just me saying it, but everybody else enacts it, which is we're all just people. We just have a different job. Our job is higher profile. If I sat around and watched you do your job, then I'd have questions about it, So it's not about a caste system. It's about exposure. You're exposed to what I do. You're exposed to what Jared and Jensen do that affects you in a certain way, and you have questions about it, or you want to experience it closer or firsthand. But that, when you look at it through that lens, there's no barrier to break down, because it's simply a perception of who knows more about whom versus who has more value than whom.
And we honestly really love it. It's inspiring for us. Some of the experiences, we've been doing it for about 7 years. The conventions for about 7 years now, all over the world, and all just Supernatural, right? So, and some of the moments you have, some of the Saturday night special moments, some moments at Q&As, or even in photo ops or meet and greets that are like never forget, and it's those moments where it doesn't feel like a job, and it does feel like we're just human beings relating to each other, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, and look, I thoroughly believe that, but for the fact that the convention circuit was so strong for this show,
the show,
Rob and I would have become irrelevant in this universe a long time ago,
right.
Because I thoroughly believe that because of the convention circuit, because of our involvement in it, because that has kept us relevant with the audience and alive on social media, that has led to me directing. It has led to Rob's character return. It has led to us being able to do this show. So we have benefited greatly from the support that the fans provided us. So it is our great pleasure to go from city to city and return the favor and be entertaining and do the thing that we do that people seem to enjoy. So it's a win-win for us. We have a great time doing it.
And the show, it led us to create the show, which is very much about, something I think the fans will really dig. Fans of our show and then fans of other shows even, but because we're the boobs, we're the goofballs set within this backdrop of the conventions. So I think it'll be a fun little window in to sort of behind the scenes,
and it is fiction. When you see it,
yeah, exactly.
most of this
amplified version
did not happen.
Yeah.
I like the idea that God and Gabriel are boobs, It's
Oh,
good.
they are.
That's right.
So speaking of social media,
Yes.
we're live on Periscope and Twitter. There's about 400 people watching right now.
Hi.
Heart.
Hi, 400 people.
So questions that they asked was, what was your favorite moment while filming season 1?
Mm-hmm.
And will you be releasing bloopers?
Oh, we're definitely going to
Definitely
do the editors on strict orders to definitely be putting together some sort of gag reel.
Yeah. So
We'll make the show first, and then we'll do
Yeah. And then
favorite moment from the set.
I mean, there are several moments that where we had a lot of actors coming in and working on the show. They were ultimately doing us favors, who just gave us such great work, 100%. People like Kurt Fuller, who's been in everything and actually was in Supernatural, and we love him so much. And he came in and he knocked it out of the park, and that was. For Rich and I, at creating the show, it just were moments like that where we're like, wow, it was mind blowing.
And the great thing about Kurt Fuller, I want to say, is that we reached out to Kurt. We wrote the role with Kurt in mind. We're not great friends with Kurt. We know Kurt a little bit, but it wasn't like I see Kurt all the time, and he didn't know anything about it. So once we get into pre-production, I call Kurt out of the blue, and I never talked to the man, and sort of pitched him this idea on his voicemail. And he calls me back, and he says, yes.
Yeah.
I don't need to read the scripts. I'm in. So he did. He jumped on board without, and he's in it a lot. And so I was just stunned by that. That was such a thrill because he had no reason to say yes other than he felt like his gut told him it would be fun. And that's awesome.
And everybody did that. It was the whole shoot, which we just finished, was fresh in our heads. We followed that Supernatural model where we wanted from the beginning. We said we want people to work in the show who wanted to be there, the spirit of the project was fun, and we assembled this great group of people, made it fun to go to work every day. It was terrific.
Right.
You've referenced quite a few of those antics, the fandom antics. I'm sure some of them will end up in the show, but are there any that you could share, one or two memorable?
The one that we've been sort of sharing is that there was a real life story where, and this is the kind of stories we draw from, where we were in New Jersey and we got there, went to our hotel rooms on the 9th floor. He was in room 911, I was in room 923, and I phoned him in from the room phone to see if he wanted to go down and have a beer, and I just pressed 911 and accidentally got the emergency operator, who I thought was Rich. And I was like, I get the bit, Rich, it's not funny anymore. Can you just talk to me like a regular person? They're going like, what's your emergency? Who's in the room with you? Where are you? And then I realized what I'd done. I was like, God. I panicked and hung up. I ran down to his room and knocked on the door and relayed the story, and then the cops ended up coming. So we, of course, took that story.
And then the fiction takes over,
exactly.
right?
So that's the kind of thing we do. We take that kind of story, like, this is an episode. And we sort of...
So you filmed you using footage from some of the cons as well?
We went to Phoenix Con. We were... lucky enough to sort of make a deal with Creation to get their unwavering support, and they in turn allowed us to shoot one of their conventions. We shot in Phoenix, and anyone who's at Phoenix saw us doing that because we were all over the place. And that's really more for the title sequence and for some bumper material that might be sort of interstitial between scenes.
Sure.
But everything else is set on location. Everything else is shot in LA on location in a controlled environment.
Because the truth of the matter is, even if we wanted to shoot at those conventions, him and I have no time.
Well, I was going to say.
Since we're like the co-hosts now, we kind of...
And it takes a lot more. The fact of the matter is, if you've never seen a show made, it just takes a lot more control over everything than you have in terms of sound, light, talent, and everything else. So it wouldn't really be feasible unless we were doing a documentary, which we're not doing. Which I think confuses a lot of people.
Well, I'm sure people will still think it's a documentary when it comes out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like the Mission's mockumentary on the show that people still think was real.
Well, except for ours isn't fourth wall. I mean, there's something about Misha's that might be confusing, although...
Because he's saying...
But he's talking to the camera. Like ours is not structured in that way at all.
It really is more curved
done solely as a show.
Yeah.
Still, I can't wait for someone who's going to their very first Supernatural con after seeing this, and they go up and they think it's you.
Yeah,
and they're like, so after your 12th divorce or whatever it is.
After your nervous breakdown. Maybe.
Exactly.
I know.
So in your history of like conning, right? Would you guys have pro tips for folks that?
For fans or for performers?
Both.
For fans, I always say hydrate. It's so important. My only experience is Supernatural doing conventions, and my only goal in doing the Supernatural convention, hosting and sort of guesting, is that I hope that anyone who goes to Supernatural Con and then goes to a con for a different show is deeply disappointed. Because I think that we do a good job of doing what we do and putting it on at a high level, and so I say to fans who are experiencing their first Supernatural Con, I always say, expect to be surprised and in all the right ways, because I think it's a lot more. Even when you watch it on YouTube, I think it's a lot more fun, a lot more relaxed, and a lot more engaging, and everybody's a lot more low-key and down-to-earth than people expect.
And Jensen and Jared on down. I mean, everybody is...
Yeah, Jensen and Jared, once they get their toupees on, they put the gas in the robot, and then out it goes.
Make sure you got a little whiskey in their coffee.
Is it true Jensen named the show? Titled it? I read that somewhere.
Our show?
Yeah.
No, it's not true.
Well, he's been going around saying that.
If it gets us headlines, then yes he did. No, he did. You know what he did? He named what he did do, and this may be the thing, is we did Tough Mudder together, and he named our Tough Mudder team Kings of Con after the show.
That must be it.
And then Richard made T-shirts, which we all wore.
Yeah. So that he named he dubbed our Tough Mudder team.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Kings of Con.
So, do you see this as being something that could go on for several seasons? And do you have other actors that you'd really love to write in?
Yes.
No,
and yes.
Rob and I died at the end of season 1.
That's what
That's what I was hoping for, was spoiler alert. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a comedy, but then we die.
That's very
it's a comedy bloodbath.
No, we were already got some ideas for season 2. Like the cool thing about this is we're still in it. They're still doing the con, so it's like the stories just keep coming.
Yeah, it's not the only thing that's going to keep us from doing the show is if we stop doing the show. It's like it's an endless pit of ideas and characters that can come and go, and the world is fresh and new. And the fact that it is, because of what it's, like core elements to Kings of Con, or the Kings, meaning it works if we're in a green room, it works if we're in a boat. It doesn't really matter, because the whole story is and spine of what the series is about our relationship, the comedic relationship between the fictional characters of Rob and Rich. So as long as
we should do an episode on a boat.
That is
Supernatural Con.
Let's see. The budget just went.
More crowdfunding.
Yeah, but the
you loved it on land.
Yeah,
loved it sweet.
The stories keep happening, and I think a fun thing to do while writing it is kind of challenge ourselves to keep it real, because some of the more interesting things are the real life or the inspired by real life things that are happening.
Well, one of the notes, speaking of, like Rob was talking about the episode in the 911 episode, and one of the notes we got back, and we got virtually no notes on the scripts from the executive producers at CCHQ. They loved the stuff, but one of them was like, "Yeah, but I don't think the cops would come to your room." And we're like, "Brother, I hate to tell you this. They came to our room. Like, this is not us making this stuff up." So,
well then, fellow Rob Benedict.
So that's funny. The only thing they pegged as not realistic was the one actual thing that happened.
I've had that happen at work all the time, because our area code is 919. I've had at least 3 missed dials now, and they always have to come.
Yeah, they always
exactly. You've got a witness from outside if they ever say that to you again. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
They have to come. Even if you're like, and then they get there and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's cool, bye.
Well, that's the thing, is I think we had just an amazing time shooting the show. We got so lucky with the crew we put together, and we can't even take credit for it. We hired a producer, Nate Young. Nate Young brought in Tina Dinsmore, who became our boots on the ground producer, and they assembled a team. Right? She's great, right? Producer Tina Dinsmore put together a team that was just bar none astonishing. Mark Evans, DP, everybody involved, and they're super young and energetic and just did amazing work. And we just had a great time. I would love to reassemble that exact same group and do it again starting tomorrow. I mean, it was an amazing experience.
So you talk about a lot of the funny moments, and I'm super looking forward to that, but do you have any kind of sweet fan interaction moments that you put in there? How do you address all that?
We definitely have some sensitive moments for our characters.
Yeah, we do, but again, I think most of it takes place behind the scenes. It's really about how the sausage is made. One of the parallels I draw is 30 Rock, which is built around the making of a show, but it's really about the behind the scenes of the making of the show. And our show is more based in that side of the curtain than it is the out front. And when we are out front of the curtain, it's usually us stepping in shit and walking on a white carpet. It's something about how we're muffing the pun at that moment. And so it's, the fans are involved, but again, it's the fans are the wise and more grounded spectators to the tomfoolery that we're accidentally creating in spite of ourselves.
Right, exactly.
So that's sort of like real life.
Very,
Is there a specific moment or something coming up in the first set, in the first season, that you just can't wait for the fans to see?
There's several things.
Several. I can't even every minute of it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
give me an episode number, like the very first one.
Listen, I'm not going to play favorites because I feel very solid about.
And I would like
You're gonna say
102. I'm saying right away.
Yeah, right away.
102.
Yeah.
There's some great.
I'll be honest. Also, 109.
Hey, but also, yeah.
109. So
Hang in there.
Yeah.
Just hang in. There's each one's great, and it's you'll be able to binge watch real quick.
Can we now expect at Supernatural Cons for you to be doing photos as Rob and Rich, the Kings of Con, from the show, as opposed to Rob and Rich?
Metacunit.
Yeah. There's going to be like layers of...
Rich and I do a photo op anyway, so it's already happening now that that's become people have.
But you'll have to be your characters from the show, not your characters from...
Fortunately,
we play ourselves and wore our own clothes. So it won't be hard to cosplay
doesn't take
ourselves.
a lot of 1 minute.
Okay.
We
the Halloween outfit.
never.
Right.
Shush. I will. I hope that the audience we have in the Supernatural world, takes to the show in great measure. We're certainly proud of it and excited to have an audience for it, starting with the audience that helped build it with us, and then fortunately with CCHQ behind us, the audience will expand from there. So we're really excited about being able to tell this story, tell it to the people who helped us tell it, and then move it beyond those borders into other people. Because at the end of the day, it's character-driven comedy and should have an audience beyond just those of us who get the inside joke.
And so that you know, if you don't already, because we haven't really said it, but Comic-Con HQ is where it's going to be, and it'll be
I think
premiering.
the website is comic-con-HQ.com.
This fall.
And by the way, in case you're wondering, wait a second, hold on.
It's
No, don't say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to memorize this because by God, it is a waiting for it premium digital network. That's what it is. Thank you. 7 minutes later, I got to the note I made. It's a premium digital network.
And we're going to be seeing it in the fall, you said?
In the fall.
Yes, and it's also going to be available on
Amazon and Roku.
Excellent.
Oh, okay.
What?
It's an add-on for Amazon.
But I am expecting that at future Supernatural Cons, you will have the blue suit and the wig
Yes,
and
right.
just ready to go, right?
And the
'Cause
robe.
I did see that in the trailer.
It's also a good powder blue robe.
No.
So I'm going to have to bring that. Although I have to have clothes on underneath because
Or would you?
that could be messy.
You wear a nude suit or...
Speaking of the behind the scenes,
There
you
you
know.
Actually, no. Now I have to live with that. No, sure, don't throw that idea out there. It's a terrible idea.
So I know it's only going to be available in the US to start with, but Comic-Con HQ said they're looking to get
They are
international,
actively
'cause-
pursuing getting it out there, and I have no idea. I have no doubt that they will be able to do that. It's just, and I know it's frustrating to fans. I totally understand because the support came from all over the world, not just the United States. Unfortunately, I think it's just a business
It's a
model
licensing,
snafu, and they've got to do it the proper way. But it's not to say that fans won't get to watch it.
Yeah.
It'll maybe be staggered, much like Supernatural itself. It doesn't always.
yes, I have to wait years to see it in Australia.
But you know what I mean. It doesn't always air at the same time. So we're hoping that it'll eventually catch up and it'll get there, and then it'll all be out there for everybody.
Yeah.
Great.
Last question, guys.
Last question. Ooh, no pressure.
Who's it going to be? Last question. It's last.
Have you got a theme song?
What?
There
Have you got a theme song?
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. You'll hear it when
What's
it's
the number?
Oh no, I was gonna ask. The campaign is over, and they had a lot of merchandise that apparently, raises your self-esteem and all that good stuff. How can fans get a hold of that now that the campaign's over?
Say it again.
The Kings
Oh,
of
like
Con
I think she's probably talking about the little help from
No, Kings of Con.
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo shirt, the
Yeah.
Kings of Con shirts.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely
that
will have-
particular one we won't remake because that was a perk for people who and helped us with the show. But we're going to make
Tons of
other
merch.
kinds of gear and
Yeah.
other stuff with Kings of Con on it. And in fact, one of our deals with Creation is you'll be able to buy them at Creation Cons, which would be great. And then we'll also have them available online and that kind of thing.
And I can also say that Loud and Swain is doing the theme song.
Oh, yay!
Great.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, we can't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the
Hum a few
recording session
bars.
What's that?
Hum a few bars.
There you go.
It's a cover. It's a cover. It's our take on a cover. So.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.